Welcome back to our 32 for 32 NFL preview series. I am Michael Lipinski. I am joined, as always, by Brett Halpern. Get right over that way.
I know I keep doing
the
it
opposite
too.
hand. This is the Goal Line Stand, all football all the time. At GL Stand Show up there in the corner. Check it out. Also, scrolling on the bottom.
I'm 0 for 2 with the pointing.
Yeah. We are in the Motor City. We are talking Detroit Lions football. I got to ask you, when we start these things, we try to have a little bit of fun. Detroit, Rock City, Kiss Demon was a real crappy wrestling idea for WCW.
It was really bad. Yeah, it's really all I have to say about it.
I just wanted to throw it out there. It has nothing to do with the Lions, but it is what it is. Lions football a year ago, not so good. Only thing they can do is go upwards, and I guess we should just get to it. Want to just get to it?
Yeah, we can go onward and upwards.
3-12-1, fourth place in the NFC North, and as you can see here on this graphic, holy hell, they got a lot going on.
Yeah, there is definitely there was a lot of transactions and departures and opt-outs. So I guess we'll start with the acquisitions. Geronimo Allison, although he opted out, was brought on initially, to be, they need to find a third wide receiver, in my estimation. I don't really think that Danny Amendola is, he doesn't strike, Danny Amendola was kind of Julian Edelman light, and he also always gets hurt. So they kind of need to bring on another legitimate receiving threat.
Good way to put it.
Yeah, I sometimes I impress myself. But obviously this year we won't really know if Geronimo Allison is that guy because he opted out. And then you're going to see a lot of former New England Patriots that were brought on. Most named Jamie Collins, Duron Harmon, Danny Shelton. So these are guys who are familiar with Matt Patricia's defense. Jamie Collins, I think, isn't quite athletically what he was at the height of his career, but still a good player. Duron Harmon, it looks like, is really taking a leadership role with Detroit. He's actually the guy who initiated the effort. For those that aren't aware, Detroit was actually the first team, not the Milwaukee Bucks, to cancel their practice in the wake of the James Blake shooting. And it was Duron Harmon that actually led that effort. And Duron Harmon, a former Rutgers player, someone Mike and I really like. He's actually originally from Delaware. Just a really good kid. He's not a kid. He's a grown man.
Caesar Rodney High School, right?
Yes. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because the Merrill twins were the Hodgson Votek. Yeah, but really, really a good player, and I think he was kind of underrated and almost underutilized in New England. And I'm actually excited to see what he will do, kind of as the have a complete full-time role. The other guy I laugh at with these acquisitions, Chase Daniel. God bless. This guy has made literally like a mini fortune as a backup quarterback who's not very good. He must be like an excellent locker room guy. Like he must shine shoes, bring like the best sandwiches for meetings. Yeah. There's got to be some other value to him other than what he brings on the field, because it's not much.
Are you allowed to bring sandwiches in the new world?
I don't know with COVID, but you got to remember that. Well, actually, yeah, when he was acquired, it was already under the COVID world. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that was a long-term thing. Like, hey, just hang out this year. Next year, we'll get the Chase Daniel sandwich. I don't know. Anyways, then Danny Shelton's a guy who I think is going to replace, or is brought in to replace sort of what Damon Harrison was to the team in terms of a run stuffer. Desmond Trufant is partly going to try to replace Darius Slay in addition to a few of their draft picks. You have Reggie Ragland, who's a solid 2-down linebacker, more of a run stuffer than the Eagles fans are well aware of. Big V. I still struggle with this first.
Vali Vaitai.
There you go. Halapuli Vadi Vadi. Yep, that's it.
Halapuli Vadi Vaitai.
Yeah. I actually, frankly, thought he was always a better guard than a tackle. He held up enough when you guys won a Super Bowl.
Got paid a shit ton of money by Detroit too.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know that I like the player. I wish he was still in Midnight Green, to be honest. But hey, you know, I'm also, if I were the Eagles, I wouldn't be paying them the money that the Lions gave them.
Yeah. But you know, look, he is a massive human being. Frankly, I always wish he'd play a little nastier. I think that would really help him out. But I think he'd make a very good guard. You know, in certain offenses, he's just so big. It'd be tough to, you know, you're not going to bull rush him. And then, you know, it's a smaller area, so he's not really going to lose as much to speed, which has been his issue in the past. So yes, that's with the acquisitions. The departures, I think the big one there, Darius Slay, and the trade to the Eagles, that was definitely big. Mike Daniels kind of getting long in the tooth. Graham Glasgow, I think they're going to miss. Damon Harrison, in his day, was probably the best run stuffing defensive tackle in the league, but he's definitely, time is catching up to him. He's starting to get injured a lot. Devon Kennard, we talked about when we talked about the Cardinals. He's a solid outside linebacker, pass rusher. His issue is, can he stay healthy? Rashawn Melvin, I believe he actually opted out, but, you know, decent cornerback, nothing great. Ashawn Robinson went to the Rams, decent defensive tackle. Ricky Wagner is a solid offensive tackle, but I think he's definitely replaceable. So you look at the opt-outs, talked about Geronimo Allison, John Atkins. That definitely hurts with the defensive tackle depth, not death. Particularly in light of the fact that they only had, you know, they brought in Danny Shelton, but you had lost Harrison, you had lost Ashawn Robinson, and then Russell Bodine. I think that's more of a depth issue as well along the offensive line.
Lots of turnover, lots of changes.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you're a coach and you're trying to instill a system, right? I mean, this isn't anything out of the norm. Maybe it's a year later than normal.
I think it's also, I mean, they clearly didn't have success. I mean, they were 3-12-1.
Right.
So sometimes it's almost like the spaghetti approach. You throw a bunch of stuff up against the wall and see what sticks. Because, I mean, aside from Big V, I think he actually got the most money of any of the people that we named in the acquisitions.
Agreed.
You know, a lot of these were kind of either, you know, veteran players getting league minimums or 1-year prove-it deals, a lot of those, to see what, you know, a guy has. So, you know, we'll see.
This was very much to me when I saw going through this exercise here. It was, wow, Patricia is really trying to instill the Belichickian and New England mindset in Detroit, which makes sense. You're bringing a coach in from somewhere. And I look back on him like interesting that he didn't do it a year ago. Hello, telephone. But just odd that it was now and not then. But let's see what can only go up. Let's check out the draft. I think you and I both agree we like some of these picks.
Yeah.
And this, to me, looking at it, had the trademark of Bill Belichick and New England and these guys. You could very much see the direction Detroit was going. I think now's when you got to give your guy time.
Yeah, I really like this draft. Look, Jeff Okudah is one of the top cornerback prospects of the past several years. So, you know, it would have been nice to pair him with Darius Slay, but they will pair him with Desmond Trufant, and I think that that's a nice 1-2 punch. DeAndre Swift, I had him as my top running back in the past draft class, and to get him in the second round, I think that's a really good pick. I think if you look, Detroit has been missing a running game for a long time now. So I think that was really a good pickup. As I talked about in our draft recap, I think the Lions had my favorite round of any team's draft in the third round. First, by picking Julian Aquara because it gets to pair him with his brother Romeo. I think that's just a nice story to have two brothers playing literally the same position on a team, and then a guy that Mike and I know very well.
And sorry,
Huh?
I couldn't do it.
Couldn't do what?
He's an Ohio State draft pick. Sorry.
No, I know that. It's okay. Jonah Jackson originally played at Rutgers, then became a grad transfer and went to Ohio State, where he had a really strong year.
Mind you, that might have been the greatest decision of his life.
Oh yeah, I don't blame him. And look, there's all the videos of at the Ohio State Rutgers game. He's coming up, and all the guys from Rutgers are hugging him and saying, like, "We're so happy for you. You made a great move. Like, he made the right move. You can't fault him for that. And I wish him nothing but the best. And I also know his agent, who's a great guy, Billy Connolly. Hopefully we can get him on the show one day. I think he's a really good player, and I think Julian Aquara is a really good player. So you got great value, you got great stories in the third round. I also like Logan Stenberg. I thought he was more of a second or third round pick along the offensive line. Quintez Cephas is kind of a slower version of Plexico Burress. He's one of those tall, big target receivers, but he's definitely not as fast. But again, there's value to having guys like that, particularly in the red zone. Jason Hundley from New Mexico State, I thought was an interesting pick. Definitely will help out, and I think he can be more of a third down back. Although DeAndre Swift is a guy who is really good in the passing game and is a 3-down running back. But again, fifth round, you want to add depth, and I think they achieve that. And then their last two guys, that's sort of a Belichick thing. He's always trying to build and find value with offensive and defensive linemen, and I think these guys are going to come in and compete and try to provide depth along the D line.
Questions here for the Lions in 2020, and some of it is around the defense. We're talking offense, a little bit of both. What is the offense missing to really compete in Detroit? You have Matt Stafford, puts up good numbers.
Yeah,
you have good players in all positions. What are they missing?
It's weird. So, and you're right. Matthew Stafford puts up good numbers. If you just looked at his stats without looking at how the team does, you would think that the team is doing better. So they have Kenny Golladay, who I really like, and they have Marvin Jones, who to me makes one or two splash plays a game, but I don't think he's consistent enough where you're continually driving or matriculating the ball down the field, to quote the Hall of Famer Hank Stram. And I think that's kind of the problem. You need a more reliable receiving core. That's one thing that I think is missing. Second would be, so again, and that's why I think the stats show up, because he'll throw, Marvin Jones is always good. And for fantasy players, you'll always know this. Marvin Jones is good for like 2 40-yard catches a game.
Their wide receiver, Matt Stafford, is a good fantasy quarterback.
Yeah.
He is a very good fantasy quarterback. I've had him both times I've won in 2 of the last 3 years. He ended up being my quarterback because he just puts up big numbers. Usually because they're down a ton and they have to throw the ball all over the place.
There's that too. But so I think a more reliable receiving core would help. I think getting a few better options. I think you can upgrade over Marvin Jones, and I think you can upgrade over Danny Amendola. So, and Kenny Golladay really like a lot, but I think you could get him more talent. Also, and I think this is where DeAndre Swift comes in. That running game, if you think about it, that running game has not been that good since Barry Sanders.
Yeah.
I'm trying to. I wonder if they've had I don't know if they've had 1,000-yard rusher since Barry Sanders.
It's worth looking at, and when we get to the prediction show, maybe I will make a notation. I got my pen. I'll make a notation of it, and we'll see if there was one. I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah. So I mean, you had the kid who was a medical student, Zenner. I don't know, but yeah. So to me, those are sort of the main two. And then also, they drafted T.J. Hawkinson last year with a top 10 pick, hoping he was going to be the next Gronk. And I mean, he really had a underwhelming team. So they did.
They did. Last Lion to rush for 1,000 yards. Well, hold on. Yep. So Reggie Bush in 2013, Kevin Jones in 2004. Before that, but you have two.
That's it. You need a lot more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. That's not going to get it done. There are teams that have had 2,000-yard rushers in the same season since then. I mean, that's not going to get it done. So, yeah. So those are the reasons.
Is Jonah Jackson, who we're high on, starting by the end of the year?
I think that there is a legitimate chance that he could. I mean, if take aside the rookies that I mentioned, I guess sort of the two guys who would be considered to start at guard right now would be Kenny Wiggins and Joe Dahl, who are kind of sort of just middling veterans. And I also think that there's going to be a preference to bring in a guy like that. Offensive linemen and defensive linemen don't learn by sitting on the sidelines, whereas quarterbacks do sometimes. Offensive and defensive linemen need to get out there. And I think that he has enough capability that he's going to be able to do that. Plus, people forget he owns center. So he provides positional flexibility, versatility. I think he will be starting by the end of the year at either guard spot or maybe even center.
Defense. Can fans be excited about this Lions defense?
There are certain aspects to it where I think maybe, I think with the Acquire brothers and Trey Flowers and Jamie Collins, you now have some bigger guys who are athletic, who can get after the quarterback. Jared Davis is a nice middle linebacker. And, they also added, again, the top cornerback prospect in the last 5 years, maybe him and Jalen Ramsey. So to me, that's something I would be excited about.
We talked about him already, but Duron Harmon, how will he perform in this defense? He was nicknamed the closer, not to be confused with Kenny Omega for another wrestling reference, in New England because of his late game heroics.
Yeah.
How does he fit here? Is this just like piece to the puzzle because it's the same defense that he was in before?
Yeah, I think he's going to come in and have a seamless transition. And I'm really excited because he was kind of splitting some time with Patrick Chung, and also he was the third safety.
Yeah, he was a guy.
Because you had McCourty and Chung.
Yeah.
So he played that third safety role. And now I think he's going to be a full-time starter. I'm really excited to see what he can do. Physically, he has all the tools. He's strong. He's fast. I honestly think that by the end of this year, you're going to say that Duron Harmon is a top half of the starters in the league at safety.
Well, there you go, Lions fans. So you have some stuff to look forward to. If you are a fantasy football player, check out Thrive Fantasy, our partner. Scrolling down there on the bottom, you can play daily fantasy sports on football, baseball, basketball, PGA, League of Legends, esports, all that stuff. Use code SEC247 when you deposit $20. You get 20 or more. Free $20 when you deposit 20 or more. Tell them Mike and Brett sent you. We will be back tomorrow for more on our 30. Well, actually, later today, more on our 32 for 32 NFL preview series. We will see you later.